Still very early spring here, above 4,000 feet in the first half of April. The shrubbery is mostly in leaf rather than in bloom, although Prunus here is an exception. The penstemons are still developing. Most of what we're seeing here is like last year's fruits or this year's first leaves on the ground. But on this rock here, we have a perennial cryptantha species in these clumps here. I don't know which one it is yet. Several of them exist here and look similar, but the perennial cryptanthas here have yellow flowers rather than the annual ones with white flowers that see all over the place in flats and slopes and such. It's interesting that it's just growing out of the rock there and nowhere else that I've seen yet. Right, planted in the middle of the wash. I've been keeping my eyes open for this thing out here for like 3 years now, but I've never been to this southernmost part of my favorite place. We got Thamnosma montana here finally. I knew I'd run into it someday. I knew I'd find it near its northern limits. Not sure what that northern limit is here, but this is a good candidate. I finally run into it, even though I've explored lower elevations more north of here in this same area, but here we're more so on the edge of the Mojave, and here it is with a bee and other bees nearby, enjoying it just as much as I am. This plant has a very unique fragrance. Can't compare it to anything really, although I recently encountered an Asteraceae subshrub out here that smelled similarly. This could have something to do with inhabiting the Mojave. No idea. In the citrus family, the Rutaceae, there are oil glands. That's what makes oranges and lemons and limes so attractive to us. And it's a character of the whole family. The whole family has oil glands. You can see them right there on the fruits. In an interesting transition zone here. Definitely Lower Mojave elements here still. Prunus fasciculata. Ferrocactus cylindraceus up there on the canyon walls. It's a beautiful gorge, huh? But at the same time, we have montane elements like Symphoricarpos and the Yuccabrevifolia starting to appear. And I just passed by a juniper. The black brush is becoming more common. There it is. There's black brush. Coleogyne ramosissima. So definitely an ecological transition zone right here between the Lower Mojave and then what we could call the pinyon juniper band. I'm just sitting here in this beautiful canyon about to eat a muffin for breakfast and just notice all the garbage that humans leave behind, no matter where or when. Who knows what the hell this thing is. Anchored to the rock up there, I guess. Is it a fence? Doesn't matter what it is, it's still here, and a lot of this crap needs to be cleaned up. There's a lot of garbage in the wilderness. More signs of people. Wonder what's going on around here. We're indeed dealing with the genus Prunus, which means this is the same lineage that produces peaches, plums, nectarines, almonds, apricots, etc. And when this thing goes to fruit in the next month or so, there'll indeed be these big golden apricot-like fruits produced. It's pretty amazing that such big fruits will be produced in such a dry environment. Always astounded by that, whether it's the cucurbitas, the melons, or the prunus here. Kinda hard to get a good look at these flowers since they're so fragile. The petals fall off pretty quickly. The whole flower will just fall off oftentimes when you touch it. It's pretty amazing though. Within those hypanthea, within those floral cups, you'll find a tiny ovary. And it's just fascinating how such a small ovary, I mean this thing can't be more than a millimeter or two high. Such a tiny ovary will develop into a multiple centimeter long apricot-like fruit. Since this species is of the washes, maybe it's getting water deep underground for those big, I don't know if they're juicy or not, but they're big apricots, and I'd like to sample them someday. I don't think any member of the genus Prunus is poisonous to people, so I'd feel quite confident just sampling one for the heck of it, even though they're not cultivated commercially. Towards the south slopes, we have pharaoh cactus and Yuccabrevifolia, and on the northern slopes and tied to the wash here, we have Utah juniper appearing, and other montane elements. And here we have desert willow. Really not leafing out yet this high. We're above 4,000 feet. And there's not much flowering, except see, I note this Greggii is doing quite well here. And it's attracting just about everyone. Definitely dozens to hundreds of insects in here. We can't hear them now due to the wind picking up, but it's food for all. Rhamnaceae, they're closely related to roses, and they also have a hypantheum, a fused floral cup. And inside that cup is what the bees are all about there. The volumes of nectar this plant is producing must be enormous. Ceanothus Greggii, the bounty of the desert right now. Could sleep there without a tent, huh? Look here, we're in the Mojave Desert. We got Yuccabrevifolia, one of the top indicator species that you're in such a place. Got some junipers appearing higher up on the ridge. Chalopsis linearis here. And suddenly we have Artemisia tridentata, the widespread sagebrush of the western United States. So we have a firm Great Basin Colorado Plateau element appearing in this Mojave wash now. Tells you a lot. Tells you a lot about the climate. Tells you something about the precipitation. And we'll see what happens ahead. Higher and higher terrain up there. Our walk through the climatic transition continues. Yuccabrevifolia. Junipers up there. Probably osteosperma. Utah juniper. And here we have Pinus monophila. It's a species of pinyon pine. Doesn't grow in the Mojave Desert unless you're really high up in the mountains in a different climate. So, it's one of the only species, it might be the only species of pine in the world with just one needle per attachment point of the needle. Almost all other pines, or all other pines, have needles attached in clusters of 2 or more per point. So Pinus monophila, one leaf pine, is pretty interesting for that aspect of its morphology. There's more of it ahead up there. Now this is something else. We have Ferrocactus cylindraceus right here under Prunus, adjacent to Utah juniper. It's pretty cool. I mean, you see this thing on the lowest, driest flats of the Mojave. And here's its upper limit of distribution on the juniper and pine forest. This, also in a juniper and pine forest, we have our good friend Yuccabrevifolia. Friends, I should say. Yuccabrevifolia is even pups. Or full-on babies coming up, I don't know. Have to dig under there to really check it out, I guess. Yuccabrevifolia, and then Cylindropuntia acanthocarpa, the sharp-fruited cholla. This is a big sucker. This will freak you out from a distance. First thought might be, is that a meth trailer? Is that some kind of crazy encampment? They exist. No, it's just relatively another big dead balloon in the balloon graveyard that is the Mojave Desert. Got a nice robust individual, Aquarchus chrysolepis. We've seen this together on some of the higher ridge lines of the Lower Mojave, and here it is very robustly growing because it's in a wash and it has access to the water underneath. Evergreen, sharp leaf margins. And then if you look at the inside of the acorn cup, and if it's hairy, that gets you there too. Beautiful. Look at all the shade. In the midst of a pretty old fire here, and the desert willows are reluctantly yielding to sagebrush is taking over the washes. And I've seen some pretty dense patches of juniper forest on the hillsides ahead. Here we have the hypervariable Opuntia polyacantha. Very long spines there. Deeply betalain rich, probably due to the exposure there. Whereas under the shelter, the juniper, this is the same exact species. The spines are significantly smaller in length, and it's way greener than that red thing over there. This one's Opuntia engelmanii. Far fewer spines there and much bigger pads. Can't wait to take what serves as a road in these parts someday soon up into those mountains when things are flowering higher up. Look at that, it's a straight gateway to heaven. Here's what it looks like here. This is great walking compared to bushwhacking. Try and descend back lower and via this road, and yeah, see if there ain't some super blooms on the other side. We've got rumex here. Produces betalains just like cacti. Look at how bright they are at the base of this monster. Doesn't look like anyone's been down the road for a little bit in a vehicle, which pleases me just fine. But I don't want to collect it on foot. It's a big monster to haul around for another 2 days or so. So I'll get that one some other time. Quite a few juniper skeletons out here.